If your cycle feels unpredictable, maybe it disappears for months, arrives without warning, or changes with stress, you are not alone. Irregular periods are incredibly common, but that doesn't mean they're normal. And the good news is, yoga can be a powerful tool to help bring balance back to your body and, as a result, your cycle. In today's video, I'll show you how to practice and teach yoga to support hormonal health and more regular cycles. Hey there, I'm Bettina. I'm a yoga teacher and I specialize in yoga for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum. Whether you're practicing yoga for your own cycle or you're a yoga teacher looking to support others, in this video we're going to go through what's really going on with your irregular cycles, how yoga can help regulate your hormones, what the best yoga practices are to do this, and what to avoid. So irregular cycles mean cycles that might be too long or too short. Your period may be missing entirely, so you have no idea where you even are in your cycle, or your period may come completely unpredictably. Irregular cycles are often linked to stress. This can be from undereating or over-exercising. This can be from the mental or emotional stress that you might be going through, or it might be related to other hormonal issues going on in the body like PCOS or thyroid issues or nervous system dysregulation, also known as being so chronically stressed that you might not even notice stress in your body anymore. And the key to supporting your body here is to slow down enough that you can actually start listening to what your body needs. This might mean around food. So for a lot of the women I work with, it means eating more real food, eating more fruits and vegetables and meats and fats and carbs, all those things that dieting culture told us not to eat and to eat smaller portions of, because the body sees too little food as a form of stress. This also means listening to when your body needs to move and to build some energy and when it needs to rest. Giving your body enough sleep, so not trying to run on the bare minimum, and knowing that as the cycles change, so do our bodies. So when the external cycles of the world change, when we move into things like autumn and winter, our body naturally wants to rest and to sleep more. The same is true for our internal cycle. So in our inner winter or our menstruation, when our period is here, our body naturally wants to rest more. And if we've stopped listening and keep pushing through these times, our body is going to register that as stress. So for many of the women that I work with, yoga becomes a lens that we start looking at the rest of our lives through. So while we do these practices on the mat, it's not just about what happens on the mat. This kind of slows us down, allows us to observe our body and observe our breath. But then from there, we start to make some better choices in the rest of our day and the rest of our lives as well, which ultimately helps to impact our hormones and therefore our cycles as well. At the heart of it, and it's certainly why I think yoga is so important for fertility, yoga improves our nervous system regulation, our ability to calm down from stress. So all aspects of yoga, the movement, the breath, the mindset, the meditation, visualization, chanting, mantra, all of these aspects of yoga help us to notice our body, to notice those physical symptoms and sensations in the body when we go into that stress response. So those feelings of adrenaline, the heart pumping, the belly feeling a little bit sick, feeling that kind of restless energy, they are the body's stress signals telling us that we need to run or we need to fight. And so through the practice of yoga, we start to notice this stress in the body. And then we also have these tools to help calming those stress responses. Because if we're not able to calm those stress responses and move out of stress when it's not called for. So whilst yes, you might feel stress when your boss comes and confronts you, or you might feel stress when you go into a fertility treatment, or you might feel stress when you look at your to-do list for the day. If you don't have the perspective and the ability to stand back from those feelings and be able to go, I feel this, but I am okay, and I can tell my body that I am safe through taking a deep breath or having a break or going and having a rest or whatever it is that you need to do to come down from that. If you can't do that, your body stays in this chronic cycle of stress where you have cortisol and adrenaline, and your body is literally doing the opposite of trying to regulate your cycles. Because at this point in time, if you are chronically stressed and the body needs to prioritize survival, fighting, running, getting away, it's not going to prioritize a healthy cycle. Instead, we want to tell ourselves we're safe, we can go into that rest and digest state, because that's when our body will prioritize healthy, happy cycles because that makes sense biologically. A yoga practice also helps to improve blood flow to the reproductive organs and overall health in the body, which ultimately tells the body we are safe and it's okay to prioritize those non-essential systems in the body like digestion and cycle health. So let's talk about what to practice or to teach to support healthy cycle regulation. All of this is summarized in my free fertility guides for both yogis and yoga teachers, so the link for that will be in the description box below. And this also includes free fertility practices, so you can start practicing and noticing what this feels like in your body as well. So as we've already discussed, we want practices that are going to help bring our nervous system down. So whilst when many people think of yoga, that's all they think about, it's certainly not all of yoga. There are definitely tools and practices in yoga that we do to upregulate, to lift the energy. But what we want to focus on when we're talking about yoga for irregular cycles is really bringing that nervous system down. So things like bee breath, where you're blocking the ears and humming and focusing on that vibration, is really soothing for our nervous system. Even more simply, just taking full deep belly breaths and really being conscious and aware of the breath is going to be super grounding for your nervous system. Research tells us that those long exhales is one of the fastest ways to really bring our nervous system down. So we really want to lean on those practices when we're trying to improve hormonal health. So we're going to avoid those short, sharp breathwork practices because that's upregulating and bringing our nervous system up, and we want to keep it low and slow. I also encourage my students to do a lot of body scanning, so really being aware of the body. And in certain classes, this might be a full body scan, so I might guide you through noticing the whole body. And in other classes, I might just bring awareness to different spaces of the body. Because when you are in chronic stress, you're usually very disconnected from your body. You're in your head, you're thinking, you're go, 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 and you're pushing, pushing, pushing. But when we come back to the body, even just noticing a very small part of your body, it's just starting to bring in this idea of reconnecting, coming back to what is my body telling me right now? And that for many women is the first step in starting to listen, starting to understand what's going on internally instead of always focusing on what's going on externally. So I think yoga for irregular cycles really should focus on slow rhythmic movements. We know that rhythmic movements are soothing for our nervous system, just as we would rock a baby to sleep. Our body recognizes that as soothing. So repeating things in your classes, doing them a lot of times so that we're not feeling like, oh, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing here. And that's raising our stress. We kind of fit into this natural rhythm and this routine that we know feels safe and familiar. We want to keep it slow, which is not to say that intense, challenging exercise is going to ruin your cycle or make your cycles irregular. That is absolutely not the case. But for a lot of the women that I work with who come to me with irregular cycles, they are often professional women, they're high achievers. Up until this point in their life, there is nothing they couldn't hustle their way through. They're incredibly smart, they're driven, they're just go, go, go. And so whilst yes, there is a space and a time where you want to push your body and you want to build that blood flow and you want to get your heart pumping, all of these things are great for our body. Our body was designed to do that. But when you're in that constant go all the time and you're disconnected from your body, our yoga practice at this time is really the only time and space that we can come back into our body, be aware of it, and start to slow things down. Like if the rest of your life is nonstop, let your yoga practice be the time and space that you like. And look, this can be really challenging for some women. Some of the women that I work with can't even close their eyes when we first start working together because they're too on. It doesn't feel safe to close their eyes. So we start slowly, and sometimes we need to get into a sweatier, more heat building practice because that feels safe and familiar in the body and that feels like what I should do on the mat. And then we can slow it down and sort of ease them into these slower practices. So ideally, yoga for irregular cycles is going to be nice and slow and rhythmical, but you might have to meet them where they're at and bring them slowly down. So if that's you, if you feel like you're in the go, 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 you're doing HIIT classes, you're doing heavy weights, things like that, you don't necessarily have to give those up, but I want you to maybe, instead of seeing yoga as another exercise where you have to push and you're trying to do all the fancy tricks, just let it be soft and gentle and see how that feels in your body instead. So we also want to emphasize hip and pelvic opening in these classes. So you may have heard that our hips hold our emotions, which when I first heard that, I was like, really? Like my sadness is in there? Like, how is it holding that? And I really took it far too literally. But what it really means is our nervous system holds all of the stress and emotions that we go through day to day. So if you've been through a really traumatic or stressful experience and you haven't allowed yourself to process it, to move through it, then your body's going to be gripping and tight because it's still in the stress response. It's still poised, ready to fight or ready to run, and it hasn't processed those emotions. So while we get into the hips and pelvis, we're creating movement and space in these places. We're noticing the tension that our body might be holding because these are big, strong muscles in the body that would help us to run away. That would literally, the psoas is the muscle that would literally fire up to help us run away from danger. And so if you are chronically stressed, this muscle is going to be chronically tight because it's holding, poised, ready to go. So when we say we're releasing the emotions in the body, we are, but we're allowing ourselves to move through them, to feel them, to notice the tension in our body, to create space, and to help create some release here so that we can remind our body, actually we're safe, we can let it go. And so in a yoga practice to support regular cycles, we can do this really softly and gently. We can use bolsters under the hips, releasing out through the hips and the psoas. We can come into a gentle malasana on a block or a bolster. It doesn't have to be intense release. I often find the women who come to these classes, it's ironic. We've come to slow down and relax because we know our stress is causing our irregular cycles. But then we take that same mindset into our yoga practice and we want to push and we want to get the biggest release and we go into splits and we push our way in there. And it's like, actually, the whole system needs a rewire. We need to go gently and softly and slowly. And it's through that full body, full life change that we get to a place where we come back to balance. So these are a few poses that you might want to practice if you are struggling with irregular cycles and want to improve hormonal balance. Again, if you want to be guided through full length practices to support your cycle, you'll find these in my fertility yoga guide and these will be linked below. So first up, Supta Baddha Konasana over a bolster, bringing the soles of the feet together, letting the knees fall out to the side. You might put blankets or bolsters under the knees and then just reclining yourself over a bolster. You can also do this on the couch if you don't have a bolster. And then staying here for 5 full deep breaths. Don't underestimate a gentle cat-cow pose, so just lifting the tail, lifting the head, letting the belly sink. And then rounding the spine, tucking the tailbone under, pressing the floor away. And then you don't have to stay in the static cat-cow. You can take circles, so rounding in one way and then the other. And you can move it around, let it be fluid, and just use this practice to get in the body and to release some of that stress. I often find at the end of my day, particularly in the mid-back, gets quite tight. So it feels nice to have a daily practice to release this out. So supported forward folds are another great practice to support your adrenals, so that part in your body that processes stress. I like to use a bolster under the hands so that I can really just let the top part of my body hang and be heavy. I keep a bend through the knees, so I'm not stressing the body out, trying to be the most flexible person in the world. This is about calming my body down. If you don't like to do the standing version, you can also come down onto the ground. Again, using that bolster and folding over here into a forward fold. Just really reminding your body as you do this, I am safe, it's safe to relax. So before we talk about what to avoid, I want you to take this section with a grain of salt. And the reason I say that is because I get a lot of women who come to me and they're stressed about avoiding toxins, about all the things in their life that are creating stress. They're stressed about not going to social events because they don't want to have a drop of alcohol, and they're stressed about the fact that they're not having fun anymore. And they're so caught up in trying to do everything perfectly because often irregular cycles are tied to fertility, right? Like the women who are coming to me for menstrual cycle health often have this hope and this longing in their heart for a baby. And if you're so stressed about doing everything perfectly, then you're kind of missing the point, because all of this is meant to be a return to just being in your body and feeling good. So if what I am about to say about avoiding makes you feel more stressed, then just completely ignore this part, because any sort of yoga practice is going to be better than no yoga practice. So if this part makes you avoid yoga entirely, then we've missed the point. So ideally though, if we are practicing yoga for cycle health, there are certain stages of the cycle because we move through a cycle. This is not about doing everything the same for the whole month. At certain stages of the cycle, you will want to avoid really strong vinyasa style classes or things like hot yoga. For instance, the first day your period arrives is a great time to slow the body down and not push, push, push. And this is where we start listening to our body instead of just being go, go, go all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy hot yoga or strong yoga in those other stages of your cycle where your energy is good, where you found a bit of better balance throughout the whole cycle. Maybe during ovulation, this is often a time our hormones are highest and we're feeling strong and confident in the body. At those times when the rest of your life is balanced and you're feeling good, go for it. Push your body, see what you can do. But when you're low, like that day before your period arrives or the day your period does arrive, don't push yourself into these hard practices at that time. And I guess that's what I mean when I say what to avoid, because it's not a blanket statement for everyone, because we're all going to be at different stages of our cycle. And more than that, we all live very different lives. At the heart of it, this is about looking at what do I need right now. If I'm in a really intense job and I do intense exercise already and I push myself all the time and I have a busy family life, do I really need to get on my yoga class and do a strong vinyasa class? Or actually, would a yin practice right now support me better to move towards regular cycles? Because that would give me a space and an outlet in my day to bring myself down. There is no blanket rule, avoid all of these things. It's just about listening to your body. And if you're a yoga teacher working with students around their menstrual cycle, I just want you to remember this is a space that's often filled with a lot of stress and a lot of shame. And the words that you use to talk about this are really important. We want to avoid using language that implies there's anything wrong with someone if their cycles are irregular. In fact, the fact that your cycles are irregular is a sign your body is doing exactly what it's meant to do. Our cycle is meant to respond to stress. This is a biological function that makes sense in our body. When we are stressed, it makes sense for our body to prioritize the systems of our body that are going to keep us safe and are going to get us out of danger, as opposed to systems in our body that could potentially make it worse for us, make it harder to stay safe. The problem is we have a body that's designed to respond to stress in a way that was around physical dangers, like the danger of a tiger chasing us, as opposed to the stress that exists in our world, which is connected to technology that we're always connected to. We're always connected to everyone at all times, that we could be working 24/7. And in fact, in some workplaces, this almost feels like the expectation, where we celebrate people who are pushing themselves to burn out to achieve what they want. So it's a real challenge to find that balance that our body needs. And I think it's really important to talk about the fact that if you are having irregular cycles because you're stressed, it's actually not because your body is broken, it's because your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And the challenge here is to find a way that we can live and move in a world that supports our menstrual cycle health, instead of listening to all of these external pressures that we feel that we have on us. So if you are teaching yoga to women who are caught up in this go, 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 I think it's about just starting to unravel these habits and starting to unravel, how does this feel in my body? And really slowly walking towards a place where we start to make changes. I think it's important to recognize that it isn't a one yoga class and this problem is fixed. We're not expecting to do yoga once and our cycle is back to normal. It's about an unraveling all of these habits, all of this stress that we may have lived with for years, and learning new ways to be in the world that doesn't impact our stress and our cycle. At the heart of it, what we're working towards is returning to that feeling of safety within our own bodies. So if you take away one thing from this video, I hope it's that our cycle is a messenger, it's not the enemy. When we slow down and listen to what our body needs, usually it will return to its own natural rhythm. And this is why I love this work so much, because you're helping to support other women really return home to themselves. I've linked my fertility yoga teacher training below for you if you'd like to go deeper into this work. And I'd like to invite you to my 28-day Follow Your Cycle series where you can feel this work in your body for yourself.